Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. This summer, we're featuring our Summer of Drummer series, talking to some drummers about their bands and the such. And today we have with us Chris Warhead, the drummer-vocalist of the United States black metal band Abazagorath. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks, Jet. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Chris, give people a little history on Abazagorath and how long you've been around, when you started, all that kind of thing.
A long time in the making here. The disease known as Abazagorath, we originally started back in '95 with myself and Nyarlathotep, the Crawling Chaos. We were both in a project doing a death metal style thing with our good friend Matt from Matt Dracaris. We kind of split up with him and started doing more black metal. We put an ad out in the East Coast Rocker at the time when the internet obviously was not available. We found two guitar players, met up with them, started jamming, started writing songs, and 96 we released our first mini CD, self-titled Channeling the Ethereal Moons CD, which and I believe that winter we also did a promo, and then in 1997 we shopped it out, a label called Elegy Records, based out of New Jersey, decided to put it out, and then 97 we recorded the full-length Tenebrarum, which is, to this day, I don't know, some people love it, some people hate it, but hey, we can't please everybody, and honestly, we do this because we like it. We're not actually into it to impress anybody, but since then, I mean, there's numerous lineup changes. Myself, I'm actually the only original member up to about 2013, right before we released the Satanic Verses. Nyarlathotep, the guy that I actually started this whole thing with, he's welcome back anytime he wants. He's just very busy with Doom band Evoken, so that's been taking up majority of his time. Plus, he's moved up to upstate New York, so he's not really that close. But anytime he wants to come back, he's got an open invitation to come back and join the band.
What were like the early days like for the band playing out back then?
Well, back then, I mean, there was probably a handful of bands, at least black metal bands in the U.S. Obviously, Absu, Vaughn, Demoncy, Profanatica, Black Funeral, or a couple, Demonic Christ, a band up Connecticut. I don't know if too many people know them, or Boston area, a band called December Wolves. So there really wasn't that many U.S. black metal bands doing the U.S. black metal scene per se, as much as that Norwegian scene. So the early days, we basically always played with a lot of death metal bands. Majority of our shows were death metal bands. Malignancy, one of the New York bands, a band we played with a lot back in the day. Mortician, Will Romer, NYDM guys. NYDM before NYDM was actually based out of New York, not based across the country. That always makes me laugh. But the early days, yeah, it was besides maybe Bloodstorm, a band from Philly, we used to play with those guys a lot, but majority of our shows were strictly with New York death metal bands. Every now and then we get a band that comes in out of state playing, like Ancient. We played with Ancient back in the day. Marduk back when early or late 90s, mid-late 90s. But the majority, there really wasn't too much of a huge scene of at least the black metal scene in the New York, New Jersey area. So we were mainly forced to play with death metal bands, which is something we were all into, and honestly, I don't mind playing shows with all death metal bands to this day. So,
what were like audience reactions like back then? Because it's like you said, black metal wasn't hugely popular. A lot of people probably never heard it before live. What were like some of the reactions back in the day?
Well, the best reactions are usually the band name. Obviously, when the mini CD went out, college radio stations got to, play it. Just listening to the reactions of people trying to announce the band name, I've heard everything from Abazagorath, you name it. People would butcher it. I remember when the mini CD came out, they probably spent 10 minutes just talking about the name before actually playing any of the music. But we are a black metal based band, but I don't think we're your typical black metal band. We have big time influences from a lot of death metal and a lot of thrash metal, obviously stuff we grew up listening to and loving. So the reactions for the most part were pretty good. Obviously, like I said, you can't please everybody. Certain people didn't like it. Again, we do this for us, not for anybody else. So if you don't like it, that's fine. We're going to continue to do what we do and put out music that we enjoy playing and listening to. Who knows? And actually, the earlier days there was more the corpse paint scene as well. It started off like that. I remember playing a show in New Brunswick, New Jersey, home of like the Rutgers area. Mm-hmm. It was a Halloween show, and half these people had no idea what black metal was. They just thought, well, who are these guys playing this extreme music? And they thought it's Halloween, so they didn't get it. But it's for the most part, we've always gotten a good response back then to this day. It depends on the people.
So how would you describe now what the black metal scene, if you will, is like now in like the New Jersey or tri-state area?
The tri-state black metal scene, obviously, New Jersey, definitely not too big of a scene. Every now and then, I get a former guy, KEP Productions, who's in California. He comes once a year. He used to do some shows here, but mainly the New York City area. My promotion guy, Signature Riff, Vinny Bo, he's a diehard metalhead, loves metal, loves black metal, loves extreme metal. Probably loses a ton, but he gets big bands over here that, bands that most people can never get here. He'll get them here. He takes care of the bands. But him and he basically runs a lot of mainly the New York City, the Brooklyn area. So he's been keeping the flame burning, as they say, for the tri-state area, without a doubt. We're actually doing a show with him. He's bringing a band called Varathron from Greece. They're kind of either like them, love them, or hate them. They kind of have like that cult following. But this is going to be their first appearance in the U.S., I believe. But he's bringing them down, and he's putting us on that bill with them. Nice. That's going to be August 17th at Brooklyn Bazaar in Brooklyn. We never played that actual venue, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. But you guys got to come out, support Signature Riff, support the bands so he can keep it going. As far as New Jersey, not too many black metal bands that I'm aware of now. The only one band I could say I do know is a band called Famine. Worthless is the main brain behind that. He's kind of a one-man project. And actually, I just spoke with him recently, and he's been doing nothing but drum machines for years. And him and I are actually going to collaborate and do some new stuff called on the Famine side of stuff. So that should be interesting. Plus, the guy's a great artist. Worthless Endeavors. If anyone needs an artist, he did the Satanic Verses album cover for me, and he's done the 2012 EP we released. But real good stuff. Besides that, it's the bigger venues, obviously, the Live Nations and all that. They're getting the huge bands there, but the underground scene it's alive. It's way better than it ever used to be. But like I said, a lot of it's with this guy, Signature Riff Vinny, and he's bringing these bands here. Now, if some of these fans show up more, it depends on the band. It's hit or miss. You get hundreds of people, or you get 8 people. But he's doing the right thing and trying to keep the black flame alive.
And so, Chris, getting back to your band, what are some of like the subject themes that you guys write about?
Lyrically?
Right.
We're lyrically, we're pretty much by the book black metal. Satanism, war, desecration, depression, hate, darkness, blasphemy, all the best for the young kids. But yeah, for the most part, our lyrics are pretty much typical, black metal fashion.
And Chris, you also sing in the band, so was this something that you had planned from the beginning of the band to be both the singer and the drummer?
Hell no. No, so originally when we started, we had, in 95, Morgul, who played guitar, who also does Funeral, and Nyarlathotep, they split vocals on the first mini CD we did in 95, and then I got to do Scream Team. We all did backing vocals, screams. But after that, the original guitar player there too, Morgul, he actually took off and left, and we grabbed the guy that we knew who was playing keyboards for Evoken at the time, who also played guitar. He played drums. He took over guitar duties. We started writing on the Tenebrarum CD, and he handled all the vocals. He went by the name of Crom. Anyone in the U.S. black metal, actually, he's released numerous Crom projects on himself as a one-man band. He then left, and then we had a guy, Boris von Faust, was doing vocals for us in in late 90s, probably early 2000s. He was a great frontman, energetic, nuts, crazy on stage, great promoter as well. So he was in the band for a couple years. We split with him, and then in 2004, we had Nihilist join the band. He was in Lord Gore. He's from the West Coast. He was in a bunch of bands. He would come out here. He recorded in 2004 with us on the Sacraments of the Final Atrocity album, and then later that year in 2004, we actually did 14 days in Europe with Demoncy and Krieg. Once we returned, he actually moved to Jersey for a while. He was part of the band up to the 2012 split. He moved back to Seattle, but anything after that, it was kind of hard to book shows locally and worry about getting him flights here. So we kind of parted ways, and then in 2017, or actually 2014, when we put out the Satanic Verses, I started splitting vocal duties with the guitar player at the time there, and then falling out with him, he went his separate ways. He's now found God, and best of luck with that to him. But he kind of left me hanging with a couple shows I had booked up in Rhode Island up there. So I kind of just, I had no choice but to sing and play. So first and foremost, I am not a singer. I am definitely a self-taught drummer. But how we are running it now as a three-piece, it's not easy to sing and play drums, but it's the best. It's easy to handle, and even just booking shows. If someone's getting us flights out of state, for some of these festivals, we're getting on more gigs with a three-piece as opposed to a five-piece. But right. Yeah, to answer your question, I didn't really have a singing background, and honestly, I still don't. It's kind of a learning curve, learning how to sing, or sing more like scream, and be able to play at the same time. I think I finally got it down now that just playing drums, feeling comfortable, and singing. But it's been a work in progress, but believe me, it definitely wasn't my choice.
Now, do you guys plan on releasing more music? I mean, are you working on anything?
Yeah, anything new? We're actually going to do a split with Connecticut-based band One Master, who also runs Eternal Death Records, and who put out my last live cassette, Disciples of Sacrilege. And prior to that, he released the Satanic Verses for us. Besides that, we're gonna continue to write. Probably start writing another full length. But right now on the radar is to get the 2 or 3 new songs recorded and out to him, and that should be out before the end of this year. I thought it was going to happen earlier, but those guys did some tours in Europe and weren't ready. But before the end of the year, 2018, late 2018, I'm assuming that should be out.
And so, Chris, getting into our little drumming questions now, what kind of kit do you plan?
I record majority of the stuff, and then actually majority of the albums I've done on a Pearl, a BLX kit. They don't actually make it anymore. It's an old Birch kit. Thing sounds great. Warhead Studios, Death Locust Productions. Check him out. He's done the last 2 recordings, the live cassette Disciples of Sacrilege, and he recorded the Satanic Verses. But that's actually a Pacific drum kit. It's DW owns it. It's a low end DW kit per se, but it's a maple kit, and the thing actually sounds really good for the price I paid for it. Besides that, at my house, I have an electronic low-end Roland, or, Roland's really not low-end. Their equipment's good. But I have a Roland at my house because that I can play through headphones. I could play all hours of the night if I want, and don't have to wake up my kids and bother anyone in the house.
So how is black metal drumming different than other drumming? Like, what does, like, the black metal drum tracks consist of?
It's changed. So I'm a drummer. I'm a self-taught drummer. I'm not I have no musical training per se. I learned how to play drums by listening to old school thrash tapes, and playing along through with headphones. I have probably the most unorthodox style of stick grip. I actually, for my snare drum side, I actually flip the stick upside down, so I don't actually use the tip. I use the butt end side of the stick as my snare. But who knows? Like I said, I don't know when people, drummers especially, they talk about these techniques. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing the bomb blast, we're doing, I'm doing this swivel technique. I'm like, what the? I have no fucking idea what these guys are talking about sometimes, and I play drums, but in the past it was a lot of traditional style blast beats. I do a lot of or people say Swedish style blast beats, that single bass style blast beat. I get compared to a lot of that, especially Dissection. I mean, like I said, I have a unique style. Self-taught, people come up to me all the time and like, hey, I need 4/4, this, and you might as well be talking a different language to me. You tell me what you want me to play, I could play it, but once we get into these, musical terminologies, I'm completely lost.
So Chris, what advice do you give other drummers teaching themselves to play drums, just getting into this instrument? Go watch YouTube?
YouTube is definitely could be helpful. Tell them to smoke a lot of pot, and play drums in the dark. That's how I started. Used to get high all the time and try and sneak into my parents' house, and so they wouldn't know my eyes are so bloodshot. We just used to play in the dark. If you could play in the dark and you don't have to see anything, you're much better off. And actually, to this day, we practice all the time in the dark. My bass player, who's playing with us now, Abazagorath, he was always like, can we turn on the lights, because we were trying to teach him this stuff, and as soon as we're teaching him, boom, we turn the lights right off. But it also helps, especially on stage. We played Canada, a festival a couple years ago. There were no lights up there, so in a way it kind of helped, because it didn't matter. We know what we're playing, and we practice in the dark, so.
And Chris, I was going to also say, too, You have a few endorsements, so tell us about those and why you stand behind these products.
Drum dial was definitely the first endorsement I got. Most drummers that are, typical, real musician style drummers hate it because if they think if you can't tune by ear, which I definitely can. I've tried it and I can never get it to sound exactly how I want. Using drum dial, without a doubt, at least it gives you the tension on each lug, and if the tension on each tom is actually, equal, you're going to get that tune sound. So they actually endorse me, which is cool because I like to use products that I like to be endorsed by something that I actually believe in. And like I said, since I'm a self-taught musician, just trying to spend hours upon hours trying to tune a drum set, the drum dial definitely helps me out and it speeds things up while everyone else is, staring at me saying, "Hey, let's go." Scorpion Percussion actually recently endorsed me for their Immortal series. I use 5B Acorn wood tips drumsticks. Honestly, those sticks. Prior to that, I used to use Vader sticks. I used ProMark sticks. And then in the last couple of years, I've been using nothing but Guitar Center sticks because, hey, I'm broke and I don't break sticks like I used to. But once I got the hold of these Scorpion percussion sticks, the way they're made, they just feel better than what I've been used to playing, and they're solid sticks. They hold up, and they're great product, great company. Any drummer should check them out. You can custom make your own sticks with them without any type of endorsements.
And Chris, I also wanted to mention that you have 2 pounds of titanium, as I have been corrected, hardware in your legs and ankles. So how does that affect your drumming? And what do you do to help you work through the struggles of playing with all this crap in your legs?
It depends. You get good days and bad days. It just depends on when it happens. Yeah, I got screws in both knees, 2 ACL replacements, MCL, meniscus tears that were put back together. Got a piece of bone now in the top of my foot, in the cuboid bone. It just sticks out. So a lot of double bass every now and then irritates it. But there's not really anything I can do to eliminate the pain. I just gotta hope that it doesn't flare up that bad, especially if it's before a show, because when the pain does hit you, it's sometimes unbearable just to walk. So I just hope for the best and deal with it. It's life. It sucks, but there's really nothing I can do.
And Chris, besides Abazagorath, what other bands and projects have you worked on, and what are you currently working on?
So in '97, when we recorded the first Abazagorath full length, I was jamming with, like I said, how I met actually Nero Thotep. We were all in a band with our boy Matt there. I was doing a side project with them guys. It didn't really have a name. It was just for fun. only maybe 500 were pressed, but it's crazy when someone comes up to me and is like, hey, can you sign this? Or, and I'm like, fuck, you own this? Not too many people got to hear it. But actually, there's been talks even within the last year of actually maybe releasing something new on that as well. I'm still in contact with the guitar player. One of the guitar players he's actually in Philly or north of Philly, Pennsylvania somewhere. The other guitar player at the time, he's in Europe, so he's a no go for that. So I may be doing that. Abazagorath, my bass player right now, him and I have been just messing around with a death metal project that we're calling Blasphematory. We just recorded a demo. And a song just came out on a New Jersey Metal Attacks compilation. Him and his other bands, he's in numerous bands, Death Fortress is one, Siege Column. Him and another guy run this label. It's all basically New Jersey bands, and it's kind of a tight-knit circle just with all these guys and all these guys from New Jersey. So it's kind of cool because they're younger guys, and they're big time into the metal scene, which is always good. So I'm doing that project with him. Besides that, like I said, Famine from New Jersey. I've been in talks with him. He sent me over some stuff, so I'm gonna probably record some drums from him in the near future. But besides that's pretty much all the projects I got going on right now, or at least the amount of all the projects I have the time to dedicate to that now.
And Chris, do you have any backlog that's available? I mean, is there any, Abazagorath merch or old records or cassettes or anything like that people could purchase?
The backlog stuff is mainly digital stuff, which you can get from my Bandcamp page. Honestly, there were some vinyls released before we went to Europe in 2004. Spirit of Hate of Mankind was one of them, and I brought a bunch of those with me in Europe, and I sold them, and like a fucking retard, I don't even have one for myself. So I don't know. I don't have much. I have maybe one or two of my old releases that I own. I don't have really a stock of anything. Like the Warhead CD, I think I have one now. But we did something in 2004 that Sacraments of the Final Atrocity label here in the Tristate area called Necro Harmonic released. He's actually been in talks with me. He may be releasing that again since he still has a bunch of the artwork for the inside of it that never got put into jewel cases, so I may be releasing that. But for the most part, the whole Discog Baz is basically right now on that Bandcamp page that you can digitally download. Unfortunately, no, I do not have any of the physical CDs or tapes or vinyl.
And Chris, where can people go then to learn more about the band? Like if you guys are going to be playing somewhere or something like that, is Facebook the best spot, or do you have any websites or anything like that?
No definitely Facebook or Instagram. I usually keep that up to date with any shows, any news coming up. But yeah, Facebook and mainly Facebook, Instagram. Like I said, the Bandcamp page. I have a Reverb Nation page that I don't really pay attention to that often, but it's all kind of linked. So once I link it to one, it should go to pretty much all of those sites.
Okay, and there you guys have it. And thank you so much to Chris of Abazagorath. And you can check them out on their Facebook, Bandcamp, Instagram to see if they're going to be playing around you. And Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show, talking with us about the band and drums, and all the best to you. And also thank you for all your support.
Nah, not a problem. Favorite radio station of all time, Metal Messiah. I appreciate the support and appreciate the opportunity